All right, everybody, welcome back to RCT Creations for this park showcase. I mentioned in a post a little while back that I was getting back into working on some Fun Corporation stuff. Got some crazy life stuff going on right now, but, you know, is what it is. Life throws stuff at you and you deal with it, and, you know, this is a good escape for me, always has been, and back into Roller Coaster Tycoon we go. I've said I plan on making it through this series until we get to modern day, and that is going to remain true. So there's been some pauses, but don't fret. I will always return to this series until we hit the year 2026. Anyway, so this is a new park within the Fun Corporation series. So I had teased a little while back that there was something going on, and we're going to do a little bit of a park tour for the newest Fun Corporation facility. This one, as opposed to Houston Pleasant, so as you guys know, we started with Funland and Joyland. Funland being located in Sacramento, California, Joyland being located in Albany, New York. We added Houston Pleasant in Cypress, Texas in the year 2000, and now in the year of 2009, Fun Corporation is acquiring Royalty Cove in Jacksonville, Florida. So I'm going to go ahead and throw an image up on the screen right now. So this is an image from Google Earth. I couldn't get maps to participate. I would have used that, but you know, oh well, a little bit of snipping tool later, and here we are in the same spot. And outlined is the actual park location on the intersection of Interstate 10 and I believe it's Highway 23, but if you're from the area or recognize it and you're more familiar with Florida, go ahead and let me know. If from everywhere I've been, that's a highway symbol, I believe, but again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And if we go ahead and zoom out here at Royalty Cove, you will notice we have I-10 up here, and then we have Highway 23 right here, all mixed up in this spot. Something that's a little bit unrealistic for this particular park is in real life, close to this area of Jacksonville, there is a small airport, so we probably will be limited in height that we could build that. However, I'm going to pretend that airport doesn't exist just in the interest of building cool stuff at this park in the future. Anyway, we'll go ahead and get started with the main entrance plaza. Very, very straightforward. So as we talked about, this is an acquisition, so this was not built by Fun Corporation, so I wanted to kind of give it a little bit of different feel. And then I also wanted to make sure that there's room for improvement, because typically when parks are put up for sale, there's a reason for it. This one had some financial trouble, and as you can see down here in the bottom corner, we are short on guests, and we are definitely a little short on funds as well. And by short, I mean very, very short on funds. The park is currently losing money. So the story behind Royalty Cove opened in 1995 as a zoo originally, but slowly began adding rides, and we'll kind of go through here. And let me make sure I have my document pulled up so I have the rides in order correct. But again, front gate right here, you got your ticket booth. Very, very simple. Guest services building is right here. And in fact, I've noticed something I did wrong, and I'm going to go ahead and correct it right now. So pardon me while I use the no money cheat just briefly to go ahead and fix this. There we go. So that should have been done originally, but now we're fixed regardless. You know, you gotta adjust on the fly here. But anyway, back to the main entrance. You got your front gate right here. This is where you take your tickets. This is where you get them at the gate. Guest services here, and then just a whole wall of ticketing on this side as well. You come through the gate into this very square fountain, and then you have a little merchandise stand right here, and then we have the first ride you'll run into, the Royalty Cove merry-go-round, and then on the other side we have the Royalty Cove Theater right here. Both of these rides are original to the park, opening in 1995. Started out with a very, very small collection of rides, but slowly grew as the park grew as well. We're going to go ahead and move on to the first zoo section of the park, and this is the Arctic. So we have a Zamperla monorail called Arctic Airway that goes around this section, so guests can get a bird's eye view. And the first thing guests will come across in terms of animal exhibits is the penguin exhibit. So really cool. I can't remember off the top of my head, and if I open this up, it might show me who ported these over. It does not, but someone went over, and if you can remember in the comments, I need to figure it out. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and look it up real quick. But someone had ported the Zoo Tycoon, the original Zoo Tycoon animals into entertainer slots for OpenRCT2. And I thought that that was really, really cool, and I've wanted to do something with this for a very long time. And, you know, it ended up looking pretty good. There's only so much you can do, really, with the entertainer outfits that are provided with Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, however, and I can't seem to find it right now. If I do find it, I will put it in the comments and then put it on an overlay on the screen, just because I think it's really important to give credit to whoever was the one that ported these over. But we have our Zoo Tycoon penguins right here. We have a nice little waterfall in this habitat for them. And then with it being Florida, they do have a little habitat right here they can go inside where it is cold. And then the next ride you kind of come across, if you want to call it a ride, if I go ahead and see through scenery, we have a tiny maze that's just a straight walk through where guests can go inside in the air conditioning in the cool area. If I were to point this into a direction that you could experience in real life, if you go on Penguin Trek at SeaWorld Orlando, kind of the same idea here, except you don't have to walk through the entire exhibit when you exit the coaster. It's just a exhibit you can walk through, much like the one at SeaWorld Orlando is as well. However, it's just kind of tedious to go around, but it all combines right here. If you're wondering how I got the exhibits to work, so if I open up the tile inspector right here, we have footpath that I've hidden using the tile inspector so that the penguins and the entertainers stay on a set path. It was kind of tedious to do, but I think in the end it ended up working out pretty well. I wish I could just kind of let them free roam. However, if I do that, they'll wander onto the guest path because fences in-game really aren't fences. Guests can just walk right through them, unfortunately. So I had to hide the path for these guys to go walk around on. If you notice this guest right here, if we look at Isola M, actually looking into the ride area, and the reason they are able to do that is because if we click here, we have this monorail track that I have hidden. So guests will look into the exhibit, and this is another one that I took, I believe, from OpenRCT2 tutorials. Again, I'll link that in the description and put an overlay on screen if I find it before upload and at the end of post-production, excuse me. I want to make sure I give credit to the correct people for giving me the ideas, because I think they should be very well spread out, and I don't want to take credit for something that is not mine. But all in all, I think this exhibit ended up looking up pretty good. Further back we go, we now have the polar bear exhibit. This one, a little bit bare, if I'm not wrong, but at the same time, just kind of a frozen tundra area. And now I don't happen to see the polar bears anywhere. That's interesting. Oh, they're both inside. That's kind of funny. So both of our polar bears are inside currently, which, you know, if you've ever been to a zoo, that tends to happen every once in a while. They tend to go hide, so a little too hot out here in the Florida heat for our polar bears, so they're inside their AC unit right there. Moving on, we have the first station for the Cross-Continental Railroad. It's a 4-stop railroad that goes around the park, and this just happens to be the Arctic stop for the railroad. Capable of running up to 4 trains, only 2 are on at the moment. Moving in, this is kind of a... This was originally kind of a little dead space, but we ended up repurposing it to fit an Australian theme very, very loosely. So we have our kangaroos and our ostriches kind of roaming around in this little area right here, and then we have a little food place right here as well. And then you come across the first sky ride. This is sky east to west, so we actually have 2 sky rides in the park, one going north-south, one going east-west. And this is the first station we are bumping into. Moving along, we are going into the Oceania area. I think I pronounced that right. I always mess that up, but kind of your aquatic area. This pool is supposed to be a manta tank, and I believe there are entertainers for this. However, I didn't want to risk drowning them, so I just left it empty. You got your pump house to recirculate the water, and then just a nice open area. Not any big sea creatures in here, but big pool. Got a little fountain area. And then we have a little bit of a stadium where we might do some aquatic shows like jet skis, stuff like that. Not necessarily animal shows, but more stunt shows that guests could come in and visit. And this is my best attempt at a stadium, and there is a future Fun Corporation project where I'm going to have to do something that is much, much bigger than that. And I'm looking forward to it, but not looking forward to it at the same time, because that project is going to be huge, and I can't wait to share it with you guys, but building it makes me nervous. But this was a good little test run. I'm not as big on building. There's some creators that do a really good job at using rides and custom objects to build little stadiums. I happen to be fine with just the look of like the stairs being your seating right here. I think it looks pretty good as is. I'm a very vanilla builder, as you guys know, and that happens to be the case here as well. Moving on, again, very similar to what we had before. We have our maze on the inside to kind of mimic an aquarium. Nothing actually inside the building, but I think at the end of the day, it does fit pretty darn well, and it looks pretty good from the outside. The further down this path you go, hidden off in the corner is our first coaster. This is Tsunami, a Vekoma SLC. As you notice, this is, I don't believe I mentioned this, but this would be the end of the 2008 season heading into 2009 when Fun Corporation acquires this park. And the first year of Fun Corporation acquiring it, so 2009, is going to be much the same in terms of park operations here. But as you see, there are no QTVs, there's guests getting out of line, and there is only one train currently operating on this coaster. The other one is sitting in the transfer shed. It's sitting there, it put together in-game because you can't make it look like it's in pieces in-game, but it is in pieces, waiting for reassembly, which it is the off-season. We're getting close to January of 2009. But at the same time, operations at this park are pretty dreadful because it, again, originally opens as a zoo that the original owners added some rides to, and it was not necessarily their forte. But, you know, nonetheless, they have them here as well. And as you see, we have some vandalized benches over here in the corner leading back towards this park. So definitely some issues to fix. But this is our first coaster, and what we will do is go ahead as it departs the station. Let's take a ride on 2004's Vekoma SLC Tsunami. Alright guys, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed your shaky ride on Tsunami, the Vekoma SLC, but now we'll go ahead and do a little bit of backtracking as we head over towards the Africa section of the park. This is by far the biggest section of the park. As you can see, it spans all the way around through here. By far the biggest, as I mentioned. You have your Cross-Continental Railroad station right there. And we are going to talk a little bit about this exhibit. So this is just kind of your generic herbivore Africa exhibit. You have your giraffes, your zebras, your elephants, all kind of put together. Going back, if I were to do it again, probably would have separated those up. However, I figured it would work just fine. And I think, so far, I think it looks okay. There is one glaring issue that I had later down the line, but I didn't really have a good way to fix it. So for the time being, we're going to leave it. Before I get too much farther, I completely missed the hippo exhibit that was over here in Oceania heading over towards Africa, but we do have a couple of hippos hanging out over here in this exhibit as well. And again, same idea. You have your invisible monorail and your paths for the hippos to kind of wander around on. But here's our sky ride north to south. This would be the northernmost station. And the glaring issue I was referring to, if you notice, this sky ride just goes directly over this enclosure. And funny thing, and I'll probably touch upon it later, but if I don't, if I go back here, if you notice, there's no other exhibit that the sky rides go over. I ended up building this first and then putting the exhibit underneath of it. And then as I started building the next one, I realized probably not the best idea if you ever had to try to perform an evac, if the ride couldn't restart, if these were over top of an actual exhibit. You'd have to like clear the animals out of the area to get anything in there to get the guests off. And then two, there's nothing you know, below the guest feet there's no netting, nothing like that. They could really get chaotic because I think if you've been to an amusement park in the last 5 years, we all know guest behavior has gone nowhere but down, unfortunately. Moving on, we have our second coaster part of, and actually the second part of the 2004 Vekoma ride package for the park. We have Sands of Time, our Vekoma Boomerang roller coaster. Very, very common across. 2004 is actually pretty late for a Boomerang. A lot of them were built. They actually started production in the mid to early 80s. And then ended up resuming production up until very recently, as of, I believe, 2017 is when the last of the Boomerangs was built. But they've been a constant staple, constantly in production. I haven't been on a whole lot. I believe I've been on 2 of them. I've been on the one at Six Flags St. Louis, and then the one at Worlds of Fun, and the one at Carowinds as well, and Hershey Park. I guess I've been on more than I thought. But as you know, especially this era's Boomerangs, not necessarily the smoothest coasters. However, with the new trains that have started to be provided for them in the newer years, in the more recent years, I should say, the experience tends to get a lot better. But unfortunately, we are still stuck in the late 2000s, so we do not have access to that yet. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But let's go ahead and hop on for a ride on Sands of Time, the 2004 Vekoma Boomerang. Alright, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your ride, although with it being a Vekoma Boomerang from the mid-2000s, you probably didn't. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and keep moving. Have our little food stand there. We have our tiger exhibit right here. There is only one tiger. His name is Royal. Roaming around back here. Only one, as I mentioned, now for the second time. Continuing on, we have our food court right here. And then we are now moving on to the opposite side of the first part of the Africa section. We have our Cross-Continental Railroad station right there. And then this is the park's newest roller coaster. So this ride is only about a year old at this point. This is Scarab, a GCI wooden coaster. Don't know why I have so much love for GCI lately. I guess I just have something going for the mid to late 2000s GCI wooden coasters. 2 parks that I grew up really close to, Valley Fair, Worlds of Fun, were treated to those GCI wooden coasters. And if I had to say I had a favorite modern wooden roller coaster manufacturer, great coasters definitely would fit that bill. This ride shares a lot of inspiration from Ozark Wildcat. As I was building the park, I watched a Defunctland video, I want to say, on Celebration City over in Branson, Missouri. Originally intended to be kind of a nighttime equivalent to Silver Dollar City because Herschend owned both. Unfortunately, that park did not succeed the way they hoped it did. When they took over, they built this really, really good-looking GCI wooden coaster that unfortunately only operated for, I believe, 5 years before it was standing but not operating for 10, and then eventually was torn down, sadly. But the layout was spectacular. If you see the layout for Scarab here, we have a smaller first drop, but kind of a double out and back, drop down, turn around here, and then we kind of race along the structure very similarly to what Ozark Wildcat did. Definitely the best of the coasters here by quite a wide margin. We have one more to go over in this video. Well, 2 more to go over, but only one more POV after this one. But again, the Boomerang doesn't have the same issue because it only can operate 1 train. However, as you can see here, we have our second train off to the side, and we are only running the one for the time being. Being that Fun Corporation has taken over this park, Fun Corporation big on throughput, big on getting visitors their rides. That's something that's, you know, very easy to take care of and get the maintenance budget up a little bit to get both trains running and get it rolling. But at the same time, when we're only loading 5 of the 12 cars, it might not be necessary quite yet, but our goal is going to be getting the attendance up. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and hop on, take a ride on Royalty Cove's newest roller coaster. This is Scarab. All right, everybody, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed your ride on the park's premier roller coaster. We'll go ahead and move on past the station one more time, finish that loop for the first part of the Africa section. But now we'll head into the second part of the Africa area that makes it so big. We have our lion exhibit right here. Nice thing about the lion exhibit is it's kind of open on both sides, so you have room for your lions to roam around right here. And then on this side, the railroad gets a nice view from the side the paths do not get a good view of. So you get a nice look in on both sides, one from a ride and then one just from the path. One thing I missed in Oceania right here, we do have a swinging ship that just is placed kind of in the middle. So we do have a couple flats scattered throughout, but we do have one primary section that we're kind of working our way over towards. This path right here cuts along the Rhino exhibit, and then we have the other path that cuts along this way. This one will connect up later and we'll get to, but let's go ahead and keep on following along this way. So here is the intersection of our two sky rides right here. So now we are heading back to the western side of the park, and this is going to be the oriental section here. Took quite a bit of inspiration for this area from Worlds of Fun, actually. One of the first sections, if you go into Worlds of Fun, is the Orient section. Unfortunately, these days for Worlds of Fun, there's not much there anymore. I think it's by far the best looking area at that park, but there's only two rides there. They have a roundup called Bamboozler, and then they have a Gerstlauer spinner. I think in the days where Orient Express, their Aero Looper, was holding down, I think that area had a lot more to it, but unfortunately, not anymore. But that's where inspiration comes from. This has been your RCT Creations Worlds of Fun history brief Worlds of Fun history lesson. Over here we have our Skyride station. We have the second of our Zamperla Airways, Zamperla suspended monorails, excuse me. This one's the Oriental Airway. Not as much to this one, doesn't really go around anything. It just kind of goes around in a circle here. We have a set of swan boats right here for guests to go ahead and take a ride on. We have the Black Swan coming from Katie's World. The RCT scenario, I can't remember. I think the UK version called it Katie's Dreamland. The US version called it Katie's World, though. Moving on, we have another cross-continental railroad station right here. And then we also have our service track for our railroad. So as you can see, we have two on, two off right here. Both the red trains are off. We have the blue and gold one on right now. We have our food section, and then we have our little panda exhibit right here in the middle. Lots of bamboo, because pandas like bamboo. And then we have a restroom chilling right there. This is definitely the smallest of our themed areas, outside of maybe Australia. I guess I really didn't think of that one. But moving on, we have kind of a more unique ride here. This is a car ride called Off-Road Adventure. Just kind of goes around, goes in between the Rhino exhibit and then the opposite side here. Just a monster truck ride that kind of goes off by itself into the forest a little bit. Definitely a little more detailed right here with the shrubs, but as you get further up, a lot more open, but it also gets more open right next to the animal exhibit. Continuing on, now we're kind of getting into the kids area and what originally kind of propelled this park in the direction it ended up going. So opening up as a zoo originally, the original owners of the park and the creators of the park wanted some more rides to draw families in. So they created kind of this smaller kids area where you just had a small, basically a small fairground amusement park style section. So while the parents and maybe you want to take a break from going to look at animals, maybe the kids want to go ride some rides for a little bit. The vast majority of these would open in 1998, but this coaster right here, this Vekoma Family Coaster, would open later with that 2004 Vekoma ride package. Starting off, the park's first ever coaster is Tiger's Tail. This is a take on a Chance Rides Big Dipper. Typically, I'm not a big fan of using different train types on coasters, but I think for this case, this is the best we were going to get. I think the PTC train fits the boxy little Chance Big Dipper trains as best as we're going to get, and then the Junior Coaster track, I think, fits that about as well as you can as well. So this one definitely takes inspiration from Joust at Dutch Wonderland. Has that little oval layout, 2 laps, and then back to the station. So very, very simple. I typically don't do POVs for the kiddie coasters, so we're going to go ahead and skip over that one, but I think you get the idea. Up over the lift, down, turn around, dips around, comes back, and then does that same lap twice. Moving on, just a basic chair swing ride. We have our tilt-a-whirl, teacups, scrambler, and then our dune buggy car ride and our bumper cars. And then the final part of that 2004 Vekoma ride package right here is Twister. It is a Vekoma family coaster and actually fits in the same family that both Silver City Express and Red Line Way do. For those of you that are unfamiliar, maybe this is the first time you're tuning into the Fun Corporation series. Those are 2 Vekoma family coasters that opened at Funland and Joyland in 1995. But this one 9 years newer, but fits in the same family. The company does have some experience with these rides. One thing you also may notice, there is a lot of ride downtime here. So another thing to kind of look into for this particular park. It was actually a funny story. It was kind of a pain to get the POV for this ride because it kept breaking down so much in the time being. But one difference between this one and then the 2 family coasters that Funland and Joyland have, if you notice, this one does not feature a transfer track. So the only coaster of the three coaster Vekoma ride package that Royalty Cove purchased, only Tsunami has the capability of running 2 trains, even though it currently is only running 1. But anyway, let's go ahead and hop on a ride on our 2004 Vekoma family coaster, Twister. All right, riders, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed your final coaster of this Royalty Cove showcase as we continue on. The final ride we'll go ahead and showcase is Roaring Falls. This, I believe, yeah, this is an Intamin shoot-the-shoot style ride. Kind of think in the vein of Shoot the Rapids. Working more in the vein of the traditional shoot-the-shoot style look that Roller Coaster Tycoon provides. If I were to maybe redo it so it looked more like the Intamin version, I might use the water coaster. But I think for what it is, this version of the ride type works pretty well, and I think it sets the tone pretty well. We have our transfer right here that holds the extra boats. Ride has a total of 6, currently is running 4, and as you can see, they're all running pretty well. Pretty well. By pretty well, I mean full. Pretty straightforward layout. Boats are spaced really well apart here. We have 2 lift hills, 1 smaller lift, which has the on-ride photo section, a little bit of a flowing section into the big lift here, then a big drop, which will slowly lead us back into the station. Dual station, so we have an entrance, a loading area, and an unloading area. This would be the last ride, I believe. Second to last ride. So Scarab is the last ride that the original owners added to the park. This is the second to last. And you can kind of tell budget was starting to run a little bit thin. So your Q house building here is actually repurposed from something that was originally here and was a animal area, but has since been repurposed into a Q house for Roaring Falls. I'm really happy with the way Roaring Falls turned out. I think the ride looks really good. A little bit of vanilla custom support work here. As I've mentioned before, I have very little patience for doing custom support work, which is going to be interesting for the next Funland project. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Let's just say this isn't the only thing that Fun Corporation is doing in 2009. But moving on, we have our main food plaza near the front entrance. We have another tiny little plaza right here, a little dessert. And then we are back to the front of the park. So taking a look at the entire area here, I think we've got a pretty decent park here to work with. But as we talked about, there is definitely some room for improvement with this particular park. Pathfinding is a little weird if we look over here at Scarab. This is a disaster waiting to happen if the park gets packed. Coming back down here, and if they try to exit and they get caught in that area, that could potentially be a disaster. Or heck, maybe they want to get back over here. But thank you very, very much for joining in. I know it's been a while since the last upload. This project has kind of kicked my butt a little bit, but I'm very, very happy to have it done and get it uploaded to you guys. Leave a comment if you enjoyed the video. Thank you very, very much for watching. The individual coaster POVs will be coming out, so if you've watched this video, you've already seen them. I would appreciate it if you watch them again. You don't have to, though. I'm not going to force you to, but you can expect those to come up over the next coming weekdays. But thank you again very, very much for tuning in. This is RCT Creations, signing off from the Fun Corporation Royalty Cove Showcase. I will see you all in the next one. Thank you.